They're strategies that we have been implementing with retirees because it's called cash out recontribution strategy, and you can only obviously cash out your super once you're retired. Yeah, so essentially you can cash out portions of your super fund and recontribute them back into super under the non-concessional contribution cap, which is the tax-free component of your super fund. For the most part, depending on your balance, you can wash it all out, but other times you might only wash out a portion of it. But again, I've been doing that and saving clients hundreds of thousands of dollars in death benefit tax.
Hello and welcome back to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast. I'm Tash and I'm here with Anna, and we've also got Jess with us today. She's a financial advisor with over 10 years experience. We're very excited to talk all things inheritances and financial advisors. Who can we trust? What do they do? All these things soon. But first, money wins, money loss. Do you want to start, Anna?
Yeah, it was just like seconds ago that this happened. My kid ran out of nappies and we're slowly transitioning to just like bedtime nappies. So I was like, I don't need that many, but I need to get it. So I went across the street and it was like $16 for like 12, $17 for 12, which is so expensive. And I was like, I could go to Kohl's, I could go to Woolies, I can get them cheaper. And then I stood there for 5 minutes, like running the numbers, being like, should I go? How much time will it take? And then you sit there sometimes debating these things because you've been frugal your whole life and you're like, just get the damn nappies and get out. Like, why are you wasting time on this? You don't want to go to another shop. So it's a bit of a money loss, but I guess a time win, even though I spent 5 minutes. What about you, Jess?
Well, I actually had thought about buying something new to wear today, and I went to Chadstone with my girlfriend and was looking everywhere, and honestly, fast fashion at the moment is just terrible. So it was a money win because I didn't buy anything, and this is just something that I already had in the cupboard. So
it looks great.
Yes.
We don't know. We think it's new, so it's good.
Yeah, it's new. Nah, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
I feel like I am really glad it's like a superpower when you find clothes shopping overwhelming, because then you don't need to waste the money. Because I do the same where I walk in and I'm like, nah, this is not it. I cannot be bothered today and I'm not going to buy anything. And I wear my same outfits that I always wear.
I'm the same. So sometimes I don't really connect with people who are like huge shoppers or get really tempted because that's just not something for me. But then I get very excited if I do find something that fits that I've been like waiting for a long time, like a good pair of jeans or a dress that I wanted to wear. So then that feels like a win.
Yeah, I like that. And I feel like years ago I might have been a bit more caught up in trying to buy new things all the time and, for that dopamine hit. But now I'm just like, no, I like look at my cupboard. It's crazy. You need to go through and cull things, not buy more. So less is more sometimes.
Yes. And it's definitely nice when you wake up and you know what you want to wear because you've got the things that fit you really well, rather than like, this is so overwhelming. I don't know what I want to pick today. Not for me.
Yep. Same thing as last Wednesday. It's fine.
Yes.
I just want to be like a cartoon character like The Simpsons and wear the exact same thing all the time.
Imagine,
and it's okay. You open
Steve
your
Jobs.
Yes. Elizabeth Holmes. Was that Elizabeth Holmes?
Oh, maybe.
The Theranos lady. Was that Elizabeth? What's her last name? Oh, the Theranos. I think it's how you say that. She was trying to be like Steve Jobs and wore like the same black top as well,
Iconic.
but the girl version.
Yeah.
We love that. Iconic apart from her being in prison, but yeah, iconic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Still iconic. To kick us off today, what does a financial advisor actually do?
In the most part, I suppose we're kind of therapists, but for it may be like a financial therapist, I suppose. I guess we look at your overall position holistically. So, sometimes you can see an advisor for one particular thing, whether it's insurance or maybe you just want to invest a lump sum of money. But for the most part, we like to work holistically in that, we look at superannuation, investments, personal insurances, tax, trying to manage that in the best way possible as well, not only for, you personally, but also what lies down the road, for the wealth transfer. So always thinking about that. But I guess it's also, estate planning comes into play too. So whether there's protection that you need to consider for the future as well. So yeah, really that sort of big picture thing, super retirement, investing your money. And I think that's where a lot of people can get confused between accountants and advisors. But I like to think of it like accountants always being retrospective. So they're always looking backwards, whereas financial planning is about looking forward to the future. So I think that's really it in a nutshell.
That's such a good example of advisors looking forward, but accountants looking backwards. I think there's a bit of confusion online at the moment with, like, I hear trusts popping up all the time and people going to see mortgage brokers or maybe buyer's agents to set them up with trusts, but that's more of an accountant's job, but also a financial advisor's job.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I guess accountants can probably say, yes, we could put this structure into place for XYZ tax reason. And, we as advisors facilitate that in, what are you doing with the trust and what's happening with the income and that kind of thing. So we do work very well hand in hand with accountants. And I think that is your best picture is having them work hand in hand with each other, because you kind of can't have one without the other. Like we work a lot with accountants because we need, maybe we need financials for self-managed super funds or things like that. And you kind of have to be talking to each other to know what's going on. But, ultimately we're there for the betterment of our clients and just to help optimize their current positions financially.
So when's a good time to see a financial advisor? Is it when you have a lot of money, when you're thinking of having a lot of money? Because often people say, hey, you should go see a financial advisor before making financial decisions. That's not always possible because sometimes it costs a lot of money to see a financial advisor. So if there's an optimal time to see a financial advisor, when would that be?
That is a really good question because, again, you do kind of need the funds up front to pay for that one-off advice, or, if you want to sort of buy into the ongoing advice, of course, there's ways to manage how that can be funded. But initially, you probably do need a few $1,000s just to see the advisor, which sucks because we want to help everybody, but it's just, it just doesn't work that way financially for the business. I think it's when you're ready to, if you're kind of fed up with your own stuff and you either want the sanity check to say, how am I going? Or you want to be like, I want this set up now so I can keep going with it. Because you can get one-off advice to set you up and you keep going with it. And at least you know what sort of strategies you need to play to, how you can better manage your money moving forward, like whether it's from a cash flow perspective, tax minimization, super optimization. I think there's quite a lot of things that you can do to just sort of say, well, if you just set me up, I can carry on with it myself. So if you do just sort of pay that money upfront once and you can self-manage, I suppose, in that regard, not to say that that's a self-managed super fund, but just the strategies that you have in place, you can carry on with that yourself as well.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of doubt. Like I definitely have doubt sometimes where it's like, am I optimizing this the best that I can? So it would be great to have someone just look over and say like, yes, you're doing the right thing. You've known you're all good. Or maybe let's optimize this. Or I know, Anna, when you took parental leave, you maybe made a mistake that an advisor could have helped prevent.
For sure. Yeah, there's a couple of big mistakes, but one of them was at the time I sold a lot of shares.
Yes.
Because we were buying a new house and that made me ineligible for paid parental leave and for my childcare subsidy.
Oh, wow.
So that was a huge hit that financial year just due to the fact that I didn't do proper financial planning.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize when they do things and then after the fact they check. It's always important to check beforehand, especially realizing capital gains. I think a lot of people, they don't realize that's assessable income, where you're being assessed as well for parental leave. That's important to sort of understand as well. But yeah.
So now I talk about that a lot. I'm like, if you're going to do anything like a big financial thing, it might just be good to check in with someone that you're not making a big mistake because it can affect all those subsidies and different things that you haven't thought about because you're just thinking about your taxes and how much tax you're going to pay and your capital gains. You're not thinking about potential subsidies that you might get.
It's very true. And I think when you think about it being a cost, you also got to think about what is it saving me? Because yes, it might cost you a few $1,000s, as I said, but if it's saving you tax, mental load and money as well, I think that will far outweigh the initial cost when you realize how much better off you'll be for the long run as well. So
yeah, I think about that all the time with super funds, where it's like if you just optimized your super fund, the smallest percentage that could end up being $100,000 over your whole lifetime, which really adds up.
Mm-hmm. So much. That's why I love those calculators on Money Smart, because people can see, what a small amount can do, that compounding effect every year. And it feels like such a small amount, but it actually does equate to quite a big difference in the long run.
Are there life stages where you see more people come in? Like in my mind, maybe you might see an advisor before you have kids, before you sell a property, maybe before you retire. Are there generally those life stages that you see people come in at?
Yeah, more and more it's kind of like right before retirement, which kind of shocks me because sometimes I think, the 5 years out rather than like 2 days out, you're going to like, I'm retiring. When? Oh, next week. You're like,
Oh, great.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that soon, like 2 days before, like
yeah,
literally.
And it's like, okay, and now we need to replace that income that you're no longer going to get. And it's, financial planning, the process isn't quick in that, it's weeks up to a couple of months potentially, because we have to do all the due diligence in the background to get what your current position looks like and do all the research in the background. So it's not just I can turn this around in a week kind of thing. So when people are like, yeah, can you replace my income next week? We're like, no.
And also, what if we need to make more money for a few more years or something?
Yeah, and that is the reality sometimes. And I think that's where, if people are adamant that that's when they want to retire and there's no ifs or buts about it, and it's kind of like, well, if that's the case, be prepared that you might have to spend less potentially, because if you want to retire now and you don't have the means to, well, there's no more money adding into this pot, and some people say, well, I've got inheritances coming through and, so that might be their sort of saving grace at a later point. But I don't think you can always rely on that, because sometimes parents say, no, I'm donating the whole lot.
Yeah, or someone might gamble it away, or so many things can happen between now and then, or someone might just live for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, longevity, everybody's living longer these days. So it's not uncommon that somebody in there, like a couple, that one of them reaches 100 these days.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, because partnerships tend to live longer together, obviously.
How can you help someone when they do get an inheritance?
We obviously can just assess life goals in general, but that's the counterpart to everything is, well, what do you want to do with this money ultimately? And depending on what stage they're at in life, I guess it's, is it to go toward purchasing a house, or, have you already got a house and you want to look at, do I pay off debt, or do I invest the money, or do I do both? There's so many different sort of points in time that people might get inheritances that it's not going to be the same answer for everybody, and everybody has different life goals. So I think we can help in that to manage, I guess, the thought process of what you want to do ultimately. I think that's part of the goal of a relationship with an advisor, is that we help them with their life goals. So we know that changes over time as well. So that's why we always check in and say, are these the goals that we're still looking to address and track and, achieve as well? So yeah, I guess inheritance can be investing the money, utilizing it for debt management, or like managing and minimizing tax as well. So yeah, I think that's probably where it comes into play.
Yeah. What's the general advice you have for someone who's just received an inheritance?
I think pause and don't do anything crazy. Don't go spending it, because I think, I received an inheritance when I was 18, and I always thought it's not my money. And so I really want to make sure that I do right with it. And I just kept it in my account for, I think, 3 years until I bought my house with my husband. He wasn't at the time, but he is now. We bought our house at 21. So I used those funds to go toward the house purchase. And that was my thing was, well, my dad passed away when I was young. That was where the money came from. And I always thought, well, he would want me to do something good with it. Like his favorite book was The Richest Man in Babylon. So I'm like, I know that, money was important to him as well. So, and I have 2 older sisters. I saw them, wash away their money. They didn't have anything that I did like that, because I saw that they just, bought TVs and clothes and cars and, things for their friends. And I just thought, I'm just going to pretend that I don't have it, and I'm going to use it to buy a house. And that was what I did with it.
Did you know it was coming, or was it a surprise?
No, I did know probably when I was like 16 that I would have some funds coming through when I was 18. And so, at that point I kind of made the decision. I was like, well, it's not my money. So I want to make sure that I do something right with it.
Yeah. But what a different mindset, right? You have 2 sisters, you said, and they went about it very differently. How is it that, you're in the same household, I'm assuming, right? And you have very different mindsets. I always find that so fascinating when it comes to inheritances.
Yeah. I think for my elder sister, it was probably an exciting thing for her, having all this money when she turned 18. And then same too with the next one in line. They're 2 years apart and they were living together at the time as well. And I was at home still. And I think for them, they probably thought that they were doing the right thing, or that it didn't really matter. Maybe they didn't think about it like I did. And I think they have regrets, obviously, and maybe a little bit of resentment towards me because I have a house and they don't. But it was me learning from them, which I think that's probably what they resent, is that they didn't get that opportunity to learn from others' mistakes like I got to.
Yeah, a family member gave me an early inheritance earlier this year, so they are still around, which is great. But I feel like that's been a really good way for them to be part of it, where it's like it was part of a conversation, it was somewhat planned for. There can be more conversations around it, because when someone does pass away, it does feel like there's a lot of emotions. It can feel very like you're blindsided almost, and you're trying to deal with so many different things. Do you see more and more people giving early inheritances where the family members are still around?
Yeah, for sure. I think more and more I'm seeing clients wanting to help out kids in their lifetime so that they can see it and they really, know that they're helping and it's going toward, maybe their house debt or kids' education. I think more and more I'm seeing grandparents funding children's education to help out with the parents, which is really lovely. But yeah, I think for some, and again, there's two different mindsets. It's, well, no, they can not struggle, but, do what we did and have to make the money and go through the hard yards. And then they might appreciate it more when they get it, versus others being like, no, I can see them struggling now. I want to help now because it's going to make an impact.
Yeah, I think my family had a bit of both of that mindset where they wanted us to, like I had set myself up financially already, and it wasn't even like I wasn't the reason we got it. They wanted to help out another family member, but it was that kind of conversation of have they tried enough themselves first before we step in and help? It's really interesting. What do you think about that for your kids, Anna?
Yeah, I was thinking quite a lot about that recently. I think I read an article in the AFR that said if you get help from, as we say here in Australia, the bank of mom and dad, that you are going to be so much better off than your counterparts, like by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I think about how that also affects the wealth gap between people who are able to have access to money due to their family versus those who don't, right? Like this is a huge privilege and opportunity for people like us who potentially had help from our family members as opposed to people who don't. So anyone who's listening who's like, oh, this does not apply to me, I'm not going to get anything. Like that's really hard, right? Because you're up against people that are your peers, but already had a leg up with that. So I'm a bit of both of that mindset where I'm thinking, I want to help my kids because I know how absolutely hard it is. And when you look at a lot of the boomers who get such a, everyone's like says negative things, but, they had to do a lot to get to where they are. But life was very different then. And now we have different challenges. We have AI, we have, like different just challenges around work, around the climate, around all of that. So if you can help your kids get ahead, that's going to help them. If you help them earlier, like in their early 20s and they're 18 or whatnot, that's going to have a lasting impact on their life when they're maybe in their 30s or in their 40s when they have kids. Because I'm kind of like that weird sandwich generation where I've got really young kids, so that's really expensive. So helping me is like really great time, but my parents have already kind of helped me a little bit when I was younger. And that has put me now in such a better situation where I see other people who are really struggling at this time with childcare costs, a mortgage, inflation, job loss, like that stuff is compounds when you have higher expenses. So I don't know. I feel very torn about that. I really hope that I can teach my kids and instill those financial lessons so that I do feel proud. So they go and buy their house and do the things and they save the money. But then on the flip side is I think it's going to be a challenge for them when they're older. So why wouldn't I help them get a leg up? Anyways, that was a very long, convoluted answer. I'm sure you have a lot of clients who are kind of struggling with this, who want to decide whether they give an inheritance now or, have some fun in retirement and then when they pass away. What are some of the thought processes there that they go through? Yeah,
I think for the most part, and when we're talking to clients as well, and they want to help out children, it's a balance between helping them out, but still having enough for them to live on. So where we see clients help them out, will help their kids out in a big way. Usually they still have quite a lot of wealth behind them, but it's the ones that they say, I want to give, hundreds of thousands of dollars to them. And we're like, oh, that's probably going to be cutting into your ability to live the current lifestyle that you have if you part with this kind of money. So it's up to us. And obviously we've got financial modeling software where we can run the numbers and just say, all right, well, what if we did 50,000 instead of 100,000? Like, what does that look like? But I know, some clients, they said, oh, well, I'll sell this property and they can have the proceeds of that. Or, they'll always have the house, for example. And I think a lot of people, they know that even if there's nothing left in the bank, there's always the house. So the kids won't be left with nothing. I think that's probably the difference with, us and a younger generation is that not everybody's probably going to have a house to leave to their kids because that's tough too.
Yeah. What do you think about an inheritance tax?
Oh, I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, that's rough. I'm not for that. And, any money that's within superannuation, there's obviously that 17% death benefit tax on any taxable components within the super funds. And they're things that we're raising with clients at the moment to say, well, did you know that these taxable funds actually exist within your balance?
What happens in your super?
So, for example, if you have a super fund and for the most part, employer contributions and personal deductible contributions you make fall into the taxable component of the super fund. So say I have $100,000 and all of my funds have been under that. I've got 100% taxable component. If I pass away and if I had children or whatever who weren't dependents, 17% death benefit tax will be paid to the government on those funds. So you part way with $17,000. And then the rest obviously is for the non-dependents. But if they're dependents or spouse, then that doesn't apply. It's only when they're non-dependent, so usually adult children.
I feel like that isn't spoken about.
Isn't there a way to transfer it to the non-taxable component?
Correct. Yeah. So there's strategies that we have been implementing with retirees because it's called cash out recontribution strategy. And you can only obviously cash out your super once you're retired above 60. And so essentially you can cash out portions of your super fund and recontribute them back into super under the non-concessional contribution cap, which is the tax-free component of your super fund. For the most part, depending on your balance, you can wash it all out, but other times you might only wash out a portion of it. But again, I've been doing that and, saving clients hundreds of thousands of dollars in death benefit tax.
But the only chance of you probably knowing it is if you have financial advice, right? Like, again, this is where it comes down to financial literacy being so important, but also the more money you have, the more you're able to pay for it, the more you're able to benefit from it.
Very true.
So also when I hear things like an inheritance tax, the first thing I do is cringe, being like, what? Like, we're taxing more people on stuff. But then the flip side is, how do we help people that are disadvantaged without being taxed? I mean, this is a whole other conversation, right?
Yeah, but then the people who pay for advice don't get taxed anyway.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
So it's like this
It's crazy just how complex super can seem if you don't have an advisor in your corner, you don't know someone who knows all these things, because it's not as simple as just putting in the money and then you take it back out when you retire. There's all these things that you can do to benefit so much more.
And I even talking to clients, and when they say, I'm going to retire and convert it to a pension, that kind of thing, people don't always know that either. They just think, maybe I'll just take some money out of super when I need it, versus, you're paying 15% tax on the earnings when it's in accumulation phase versus 0 when it's in pension phase.
Do you have to press a button to be like, I'm in pension phase now?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It won't automatically just transfer over at any point in time. It can stay in accumulation phase forever if you let it.
Is there a reason people would do that?
Recently, I've had a client and we're keeping it in accumulation phase because they don't need the money to come out of that environment. Mm-hmm. And the difference is, you could, cash it out and put it into an investment account and do the same thing. But obviously any earnings are taxed in your own name as well. So there are reasons why you may not convert it to pension phase, because there is a requirement to draw down a percentage allocation from it. So when you're 60, it's a 4% drawdown. When you're 65, it's 5%, so on and so forth. They're designed to run out. So for some people, they might just say, well, my fees are really low in super. It'll cost me more if it's in my own name. I'm just going to leave it. So, and then just take from it if you need to. This client in particular, there would have been death benefit tax if we left it. So we've done that strategy to wash away any death benefit tax. So at least when they pass away and the funds are still in super, there's not going to be any adverse impact on their adult children.
What was that strategy called again? When you
cash out recontribution.
Cash out recontribution.
I just love the wording of we're just washing away the taxes.
Yeah, I know.
It's so fun.
Again, as we always joke around, white collar
money laundering.
Legal
money laundering.
Yeah, legally. And see, that can't be seen to be a strategy on its own, because for compliance reasons, they don't want us to be seen to be only doing tax avoidance, even though it's a benefit to the client's estate. And that's the thing. It is it is for their estate. It's not a benefit in their own lifetime. And that's what they have to weigh up the pros and cons, whether they want to get out, like, because you have to be out of the market for a period of time and then put it back in. So there's obviously those things to think about. But again, if you're still going to be invested for the next 20, 30 years, it's very short amount of time to be out of the market.
Yeah, especially if you're retiring somewhere in your 60s and you're living to 100, 80,
Right.
80s, 90s, right? Yeah, for sure.
In summary, an advisor is definitely worth it if you're about to retire or 5 years beforehand.
Yeah,
this
not,
is
not
like
2 days
crazy.
before.
Yeah, please not 2 days before.
How did you have the conversation with your partner around your inheritance and purchasing the property? Because I have a lot of people in my DMs who say they've got an inheritance, but they're scared to tell their partner or they're scared to tell their friends or anyone in their community.
I can see that. I mean, I've always been open with money. That's why I'm here anyway. And my husband, I've been with him since I was 15. So he obviously knew about that coming through anyway. And, we were both so young too. But it was more just, I just said, I'm not touching it. So, we always had the idea that we'd buy a house together. So he obviously brought funds to the pool as well. I just kind of didn't have to do much hard work other than just, letting it be. So I get why people don't want to tell others about it, depending on obviously how much it is too, because then people are like, oh, well, it's your shout then. And, things like that, which is really unfair. I think everybody should be mindful that others have other things and priorities in their life, and an inheritance means you've lost somebody, right? So it's a pretty sensitive topic in general. Like people might say to me, oh, you're so lucky. I said, but I've lost my dad.
Yeah.
So I was like,
That's
am
not
I?
lucky, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also ways that people want to protect their inheritance. So you get an inheritance, you're planning potentially to buy a home with your partner. But in the case that the relationship kind of falls apart, what are some of the things that you can do in order to protect your inheritance?
Yeah, I mean, that for the most part, banks want to see that you're like saving together when you're buying a house with somebody. So I guess, that would be tricky if it sort of came undone in that sense. You'd hope that your counterpart would be respectful enough not to try and take that money, given it was never theirs or yours. But yeah, you do see fallouts of relationships, and they just come for anything that they can get their hands on. But hopefully in the sense that, if they saw it was coming undone and before they bought their house, you just transfer out to your own bank account.
Yeah, I think there's also people might be interested in getting a prenup, like a binding financial agreement as well. Some people might set something up like a trust or whatnot ahead of time, thinking about how that money gets distributed if you have kids or whatnot. So there are some options for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, prenup for sure. I think that it's such an odd mindset around prenups, and I'm neither for nor against, but I know some might think, oh, well, are we putting this in place because we think we're going to fall out of a relationship? But I guess, yeah, as I said, you never know what people will do when a relationship does come undone. So I guess there is that protection layer just inbuilt. It's like, well, if we're going to be together, then you don't have to worry about it. So
Yeah.
There are some weird beliefs about inheritances as well. Like you were saying, like, oh, it's not your money. Like, so it's kind of up for grabs maybe in that relationship, which is, very unfair and would be very hard to deal with if there's the loss of someone and then also the loss of your relationship as well.
Mm.
Is there a way that you think about it, Tash? Like if you were to potentially join finances with someone as well, like do you think of your inheritance in a way that you would want to protect that?
My boyfriend and I are quite equal financially. We both have our own businesses. So I feel okay at the moment if we broke up. We wouldn't really, like if he was trying to take my stuff, then I don't know, it's just so even anyway. It doesn't really seem like it's worth going through that. And I think his business would be valued at more than mine. So I think he would lose out in that disagreement. But that's like if I was dating someone who maybe didn't come with that same background, then yeah, of course I would maybe look into that. But it just feels a bit too equal at the moment to, yeah.
One of the ways I know that when I bought my property in Vancouver, my father was suggesting if I wanted to put his name on the mortgage and stuff as well as a way to kind of protect it from a future potential partner who wanted to maybe get half. I mean, I didn't go for that, but that was just a conversation that was being had at that time. So it's just interesting when people want to help you out or give you a living inheritance, if they then also potentially feel like they have ownership or say over how that money is being used.
My family members did make comments about that when we were having discussions around the early inheritance, and they were kind of saying they were happy with our current partners, but that was a consideration for them as well. So it definitely is there are conditions, I think, but you might not know about them until it happens.
Yeah. Like if you were dating someone that they didn't like, then they might have been like, well, we'll give you the money, but it'll stay in our bank account.
Or like, it'll just be a later thing, not now.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's why a lot of people might consider the trust structure as well, just for the protection side of things.
Yeah. What's been happening with Rupert Murdoch and that whole family fallout? Have you guys been following that?
No, not closely.
Oh, there was like rules with who the business would go to, and then they were challenging it in court.
I haven't.
Okay. Because I was like, there was rules in the trust, and then other people were challenging it because they wanted to change the rules or something like that. But it was like the trust was set up with certain rules about who got the business when he passed away. Yeah.
That's the thing about a trust, is kind of like set.
Yeah, it's very scary. I feel like I've got commitment phobia for that. But
people, and they call it like ruling beyond the grave, because they can.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Yeah. I understand wanting to protect your wealth. I guess it's that stat around like, is it 90% of wealth is lost by the third generation? Have you heard that?
I don't know if it's exactly that amount, but it is a huge amount. I think The Millionaire Next Door talks a lot about that, about like self-made millionaires often being like little business owners looking after their money, but then they want to give their children the opportunity to do things. So they help them with their houses and they help them with their things, but because they haven't earned it themselves, they don't know how to manage it. Because back to the inheritance thing, just because you get money doesn't mean you know how to manage it.
Absolutely.
In the situation that you shared with your sisters, right?
Yes.
You get a lump of money, and if you don't know how to manage that money, if you don't know what to do with it, you can easily lose it. So it doesn't, like, I'm not surprised by the third generation that happens.
What are the biggest mistakes you see people make as a financial advisor?
I think it's just that the perception that, you need money to see an advisor, and like people have a different perception of what, a good amount of money is to see an advisor as well. But I think if you're wanting to better your financial future, then there is no, magic number that you need to come to see somebody with. And I think that's probably one thing is, don't be scared to have those conversations. I'm really grateful that now, I'm able to have more open conversations even with friends, and, just trying to improve that financial literacy, because like we know, and, I see it on TikTok all the time, people commenting on my posts, and some of the barbaric comments that I'm like, this is why I'm on here, because I need to educate people. But again, like you're never going to help people that don't want help, or that think that they know better as well. And I think that's the thing, is be open to learning, because you don't know everything. And if you think you know everything, what's the saying there? That there's always room for improvement and learning.
Yeah, I feel like I learn something every single day. There's so many things to learn.
And super keeps surprising us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like I generally know a decent amount about money stuff, but every day I'm surprised by some interesting rule with tax or super. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's because I'm getting closer to retirement than you. So that's probably why I'm diving deep into it. And I see it with my friends too. Like now that, I've hit my 40s, I'm a little bit more interested, because that's around the corner. And are there things that I need to pay better attention to, take advantage of, so that I'm in a better financial situation at retirement? So maybe, Tash, you just need to get a little older.
Maybe.
Well, soon.
Yeah, soon. It's just crazy that there are so many things that can make you so much more money, or you can optimize with like one little decision earlier in life. Like you can do everything else the same, but pick something with a lower fee, or understand one niche random rule, and your whole life can be different, which is so crazy to me and scary. All these things we could be missing.
Yeah, well, that is the whole concept of the richest man in Babylon as well, is like anybody can become wealthy. Like, so the richest man in Babylon used to be a scribe or something like that. So, started from nothing and became the richest man. So I think that's the thing is, his concept was, have security in a home. And beyond that, save first. So, pay yourself first in that way. So always have sort of some safety reserves and cash funds, and then invest as well. So, and I think that's where a lot of people think, oh, I'll just pay down debt. And then they don't focus on building wealth at the same time. That it's like, okay, you've paid off all of this debt and now you have to start, but then you're going to retire soon. And you probably should have started like 20 years ago when, things would obviously compound and grow over time. And that's where I like the whole concept of just doing a little bit of everything, because it's not to say that one thing is going to be best. Like if you just focus on the trajectory of growth, because you might be really uncomfortable with the debt. So if that doesn't sit well with you, then you do need to be focusing on both. And like, that's kind of me as well. Like I know at my age, high growth is probably a really good concept as well. But even though inherently I don't like to see things go down, I know that over the long term, like that's just the trend. market cycles, market volatility. It's going to go up and down. I need to live through that. Even though it doesn't look good to see, nobody likes to see that. And I think that's the education thing as well. In having conversations with clients, most of them would be really conservative. But it's like if I put it into perspective that you've got 30, 40 years to invest your money, not just 10 years to retirement where they think for whatever reason you're going to cash out all your money, that it's important to make sure that you're investing in line with what the future holds as well, not just how you feel.
Yeah, especially if you're going to live to 90 or 100 and I'm, almost 28. I've got many, 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 many years left. If you want to find you, I know I've loved your TikToks. I'm sure Anna has as well.
Yeah.
What's your TikTok username?
What is my TikTok username? I think it's _Jess.bell_. I tried to make it.
Do you want me to double check?
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is _Jess.bell_.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And you work for Findex?
Yes. Findex. Yeah.
Can people reach out to you to come so you can be their financial advisor?
Yeah, if they want to come and see me, absolutely. I'm based in Melbourne, but I also service offices in Pakenham and Bunyip and Bendigo.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying to reach, a broader community because, there's not many advisors in those rural sort of areas. So I always thought it was important to make sure that, if we have a little bit more reach, and those offices out there are more accounting based, so they don't actually have an advisor out there. So that's why I put my hand up. It's not too far from home, what's an hour's drive kind of thing. And I think that's my ultimate goal, is just to help people. And that's why I decided to become a financial advisor in the first place, because like I said, I saw my sisters, not be able to handle money. And I thought, well, if I can help them and then help others, obviously, you want to help your family. That's just sort of a natural instinct. But I thought, well, if my reach can be bigger, then I'd love that. And yeah, it's really rewarding.
Awesome.
I love that so much. We definitely need more financial advisors who are approachable like you.
That's good. Yeah. And I think, for the most part, we're in a pretty male-dominated profession as well. So there's a lot of male advisors out there. But I think, and they'll probably attest to that too. A lot of my colleagues will, that females just have better, empathy, and, they will listen a little bit better. And, it's not just about numbers at the end of the day, because it's people's lives that you're dealing with. So there's such an emotional tie to money too that, I don't take decisions lightly for clients as well. I think it's important to make sure you know what you're doing with your money. And that's the thing is, improving the financial literacy and providing the education. So eventually they have the empowerment to be like, I'm doing this. And you're like, great, because you can. And, you've built up that confidence over time as well.
I love that so much. Yeah. So we're all going to go see advisors 5 years at least before we retire.
At least.
Not the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invest, or me at Ana Christina.
The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etchman from Tash Invest and Ana Christina from Perla. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorized representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorized representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.